It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ferenc Toth, President and founder of Secure Estate Management. Take charge of your financial future with your personal bank. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show, and we just had a great interview with Local First Arizona. And folks, again, I'm just going to really encourage you to check into it, help our local small business community, and donate. They're giving grants out to the ones that need it the most and got overlooked by the whole government loan SBA program. And those folks need it if we're going to keep them going. So again, highly encourage you to check it out. Local AZ, Local First. But this is an exciting show today because I've got another guest. We had him on last October. I asked John Burly to join us again. One of the top guests we've had on the show so far. He's actually one of the top real estate experts in the country. John he's a number one bestseller, Money Secrets of the Rich. He's done, 35 plus years of real estate investing. He does it himself, actually. So unlike a lot of teachers out there and educators, he's a practitioner. He does what he says he's doing. And so, John, I want to welcome you back to the show.
It's exciting to be here, Ferenc. Thanks much. Interesting times for sure.
Yes, and it's pretty obvious why I asked you to join us again, because with COVID-19 and everything that's going on in the financial world, one of the big questions I'm getting constantly, John, is, well, the stock markets and all that have gone crazy. What about real estate? What do you think is going to happen?
It's a great question. I get a lot. I think the first thing for people to realize is that there is and always has been a symbiotic relationship between real estate and the stock market. Very rarely do you have one go massively up or massively down without the other following. I think, advantage to real estate is it moves a lot slower. You have a lot more time to position and think about it. And I think just the first thing straight up, I've been doing this a long time. I've been through 4 full cycles. Equity markets have a tendency to trend upwards, and an average about every 10 to 14 years, they go through 4 cycles. They go through growth and then prosperity, and then they have a recession and a depression. If a politician ever uses the R word, you're in a depression. And they repeat themselves over and over and over again. When it's high, everybody believes it'll never go down. Right. When it's low, everybody believes it'll never come back. So I think probably fundamentally the best advice I ever got on investing is just to remember this. When your emotions are up, your intellect is down. When your intellect is down, you make big mistakes. So the first thing is step back, breathe, and really assess what's going on. Everybody can look out their window right now. The sky is not falling.
Right. In fact, John, one of the things that I've been, I think part of it is, I work with a lot of investors and stuff, and I'm speaking around the country, all types of folks. And the thing is, I guess because it went up for so long, and we had a historically long bull market, a lot of people just forgot that this is, now granted, this is a highly unusual cause, I would say, but recessions themselves are not unusual, are they?
No, we were, if you were to look at actuarially, somewhere between about a year and a half ago to 2.5 years from today, we were going to go into a normal recession. And the dynamics behind this, first of all, what we're in right now, it's not a financial crisis, it's a health crisis. The emotions are extraordinarily high because people are afraid of dying. You can't get much more emotion than your own death. So people are not responding in a logical manner. And all you got to do is look at the stock market, just crazy with no real news going up and down, up and down, up and down, boom, back and forth. It's run on emotions. And the most emotional traders are the quote unquote professional traders with large portfolios. They're more emotional than mom and dad with their 401k. Right. And so already we were moving into a cycle where we were going to be at some point in the very near future going to be having a downturn. Now, we're completely different than we were in 6 to 8. I understand that there's all these doomsayers and these fear mongers and these people who write books and are economists who just predict doom and gloom and doom and gloom and doom and gloom. Well, the reason they do that is because that sells way more books. People buy the bad, not the good. And the fact is that they don't have basis for what they're saying. They look at small pieces of information, skew it for their opinion. It's kind of like so much research that happens today. We want it to say X, so do your research to give us X as the answer, which is not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to actually do impartial research and then come up with a conclusion. So will the markets go down? Let's get right to the heart of it. Will the markets go down? Yes, absolutely. Will they go down massive amounts? Nobody knows for sure. We were set up to go down probably in Arizona 10 to 20%, 25% max, because the dynamics behind this have nothing to do with 8.
Right.
The core. I mean, Arizona had 225,000 doors that there was no one to live in at any price in 2006. We overbuilt on speculation so much that was just not there. It's why I stopped buying in Arizona in 04. The numbers didn't make sense. It wasn't a crystal ball. It was 5th grade math on a yellow pad.
Right.
You put your payment down, you put your real expenses down, your taxes, your insurance, and you put your rent down. And if it's not a very healthy, positive number, you don't buy. That's not hard to figure out.
Right.
So I think what people really need to do is learn core fundamentals, be aware and be cautious of what's coming. We were already set to do some downturn. We're going to do some. Invest in the investment classes around real estate that are safer, which we can talk about a little bit later.
Sure.
And also be aware, if you have a property that's positive cash flow that you're holding on for the long term, if you remove your emotion from it, the price is irrelevant. What its value is today is irrelevant.
And I've been sharing with folks all the time, particularly when you go into an economic downturn, well, it's all about income, isn't it, John?
Yeah, all of our properties
get you through.
Yeah, all of our properties we have a very large portfolio. All of our properties are positive cash flow. I've never bought a negative cash flow property in my life. I've had a few over the year that we had to do more work than we thought we did to get our numbers. And we learned from those experiences, but we were running positive cash flow. Most of our properties, literally, you could drop rents 50%, and we'd still be positive because that's how we teach and how I was taught to buy.
Right.
And the thing is that you learn the foundational skill sets that teach you how to actually invest properly without speculation. Speculators always go under on every downturn, virtually always.
Sure. And I'm going to say we're going to come back in the next segment talking to John about some more specifics, like he said, about, if you're thinking about buying or selling your personal residence or real estate investing, we're going to talk more about that. But some more information, I'm going to encourage you, go to John Burly's Real Estate Investing Facebook page. There's some great information there. What secrets of raising private money, creative real estate investing, 7 levels of investor, and how to become debt-free in 3 to 7 years, right?
Yeah, we have got at johnburly.com and the John Burly Real Estate Facebook page, we've got lots of free downloads, audios, and reports that are available for you to start getting connected and find out and join a community of people who know how to professionally invest so you can do the same.
Folks, this is something you need to check out. Like I said, John is one of the top real estate educators and investors in the country. He's got the background. He's really doing it himself. Stay tuned in the next segment. Like I said, we're going to go into more. John's going to stay with us for the whole show, so you want to stay tuned in to the Your Personal Bank show. Look forward to seeing you after the break.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show, and today we have a very special guest, John Burly. Pretty exciting. He's with us for the whole show, so folks, stay tuned on this. He's one of the top real estate educators, one of the top folks in the country, number 1 best-selling author of Money Secrets of the Rich. This is a guy, he actually was a real estate mentor to Robert Kiyosaki in his early days, just so you know. So, John, welcome to the show.
It is awesome to be here. Looking forward to more conversation.
Absolutely. And I know John loves talking about real estate. If you missed the first segment, I highly recommend going back to yourpersonalbank.com. Tune in. You can listen to it anytime. And John was talking about some of the current economic situations in real estate and what he anticipates going to happen with this coronavirus and all that. But the next question I really wanted to ask you, John, is, somebody's thinking about buying or selling their personal residence at this point. What would you recommend to them?
So your own home is a dual purpose thing. It is an investment, but it also is your personal home. And so there's more emotions in play than just a straight investment property. Look, if you've got a bunch of equity and you've got somewhere to put it and something to do with it, then certainly before the hurt has hit heavily, price your property competitively in other words, lower than what your dream was, and sell it, because the properties still are selling out there in the market. Things have slowed down some, but the slowdown is primarily due to the pandemic currently. We're really, if people were going out and felt safe to go out, then property would still be buying and selling exactly as it was before, with very little difference, even if the stock market had done all its crazy yo-yo.
Right.
So I think if you want to sell your home, sell your home. The longer you wait, in other words, looking at maybe 6 months to a year, the prices are going to go down some. 10 to 20% would be normal for a recession. The pandemic may be more. It does look like there's going to be a tremendous amount of government infusion, so that a lot of people who are out of work were getting it. Quite frankly, I was listening to a conversation earlier today where a lot of low and moderate income people, because of government unemployment, which is at very high rates, and because of their checks, are actually making more money in the short term than they made when they were working full time.
Yeah, I've seen that.
But that's not going to apply to most people on the show today.
Right.
If you're looking to buy a home, I would be very, very aggressive to the extent your emotion would allow the rejection. And what I mean by that is, most people say, I want a really good deal, but are you willing to go out, look at 10, 20, 30 houses, put offers in on every one of them, and accept the best deal and not the one that you fell in love with? So on your own home, people are more likely to pay more, even good astute investors, because it's going to be their home, and they're not just going to buy the best deal only. Where an investment property, there's no emotional connection for us. We don't care. We're never going to live in the property. We just buy good, solid P-class investment-grade properties and hold them for the long term. Sure. So I think there's still a good window to sell with some nice profits. Now, if you bought a year ago after cost, you're not going to make any money. You'd only be selling because you really don't like your house to your neighbors. But if you bought it 5 or 10 years ago and you'd like to take your profit out and you have something to do with it, now would still be a good time to sell. You can still get out before the drop.
And what about refis? I mean, the refi rates are certainly quite low these days.
Refi rates are incredibly good. I'd really recommend you do the download on the 7 levels of investor and debt-free from johnburly.com, because the challenge with refis, and we've seen this historically over and over and over again. So, I mean, I saw this in the late 70s. I saw this in the late 80s. I saw this in the early 2000s. We're seeing it now. People are just refinancing, cranking all the money out of their property or investment properties as well. And that would be okay if you actually took 100% of the money and used it to make more money than what you're paying in interest rate. But unfortunately, what most humans do when they get money is they spend it. So they buy a boat, they do a hot tub, they remodel the house, they get a new car, they spend it, and then when the real estate market goes down, they have no equity, and suddenly they can't afford it anymore, and they screwed themselves. So, I always kind of learn. I look at it this way: when the banks are on TV and radio all day long advertising something, it's probably not good for me. And right now, what they're advertising all day long is refi. Well, why? Well, they make money when you refi.
Of course.
It works for a lot of people, but really have a plan for the money. So to just grab your equity and piss it off is not a good plan. And that was where so many people got in trouble with their own homes in that 5-6 era, 2005-6. People were refinancing their own house, taking the money out, thinking their house was going to double every 2 years. And then their house fell down in value, and suddenly they were way underwater, and they threw the towel in way too fast.
Right.
So I would say if you're going to use the money and you have a purpose for it, do it. And I will say this, myself included, and I'm seriously like 99% of all the people I know that are deca millionaires that are friends of mine that are worth $100 million or more, and a couple that are billionaires, 98% of us don't have a mortgage on our own home. And it's not because we have a bunch of money. We did that before we got rich. It's one of the reasons we're rich. We don't have that debt service. So that when we have something like this today, it's like, hey, my bills are food, insurance, and fun.
And, I share that with business owners all the time, too. I mean, what kills most businesses is it's that fixed expenses. So an individual will be the same thing. It's that nut you have to crap every month, right?
Yeah. And if you want to be financially free, the biggest thing you can do to be financially free is get to the point where you pay your home off. And you have to make some compromises and some settling in the short term to get everything you want in the long term. Right. I think it's kind of like if most people will live within their means for 3 to 5 years, they can then live with beyond any means they previously imagined for the rest of their life.
Well, you just brought up a whole thing because there's a lot of people out there talking about paying off their house early and stuff. Would you give the extra money to the lender at this point, paid off early, or would you do something different?
I think today for most people, psychologically and emotionally and also financially, I think they're better off pounding a little bit of money into reserves and giving themselves a little bit more safety net if it's not there. If they've already got the safety net in place, then you pay your debt off. And it wasn't the main purpose of our conversation today, but
no.
Just go to johnburly.com. There's a debt-free program that we developed decades ago that has worked for over 1 million people. Download it and use it. It's my gift to you.
Hey, there we go. You heard what John said, and I share the same thing. I use, as you know, John, I use a personal bank tool. Is that cash reserve, good place to put it, park it, safe, earn some interest until you can pay off that debt instead of giving it to the lender, right?
Absolutely. Now, the nice thing about the leverage that's out there is that you can use that low interest rates for investment properties. A lot of properties that wouldn't have made sense make sense today because you got a combination. You got rents that are very, 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 very in line with what the price of the property should be. So rents have gone up quite a bit in Arizona, and then you've got extraordinarily low payments. Right. So a lot of properties work really, really well. And I, people see articles like, oh, well, 70% of people, only 70% of people paid their rent in April. Well, just to give you guys some historical facts. That's from that's reporting from large institutional, which we consider to be about as bad as it gets. Right. And that's mainly apartments, a lot of them low income, which are going to have more problems. And apartments never pay as well as single family homes. But normally only 80% pay between the first and the fifth. And so when they say only 70% paid, it's not a very accurate number. And if you go to our Facebook, the John Burly Real Estate Facebook page, you'll see that there's a lot of conversations in April, 96% of our residents paid.
So you're obviously a big fan of the single family versus multifamily or commercial kind of stuff.
Only because it makes more money and has less risk. I own all of them, but the single family consistently for decades made a higher return. I actually, as you know, Ference, I come out of the world of Wall Street.
Right.
I formed a private equity company in 1989. We do placements for individuals and large institutions. And back in 89, we all knew in the industry, those of us that did it, we all knew that single-family homes had a higher rate of return, a higher cap rate than multi-units. It's just no one wanted to bother to do the work and take the risk. And the other thing, most institutions, 98% of them, they work on a fee-based model. They get paid whether it makes money or not, so why do extra work? We were actually the first one to go out in 1989 and do single-family homes. And then 20 years later, several of those firms went out. 5 of them actually paid me rather large consulting fees to share my model with them. 3 then rehired me 5 years later after they didn't follow the model, which was cool. And so we went out before. I mean, at the end of the day, the single-family home, it's fifth grade math. It makes more money managed properly than a multi-unit. But think about it. Whoever moved into an apartment and said, here it is, the apartment of my dreams, I'm staying here for 30 years. Nobody. Where we provide people an opportunity to own the homes so people move in. It's like, this is my home, the home of my dreams. And we're stereotyping here, but we use stereotypes because they're mostly real. This isn't TV. Right. Homeowners take better care of their homes overall than renters. Homeowners pay better overall than renters. Always have, always will. They have a lot more emotional attachment and skin in the game. They're going to take better care of it. So the single-family home gives me a lower risk. And if I'm in reasonably priced, B-grade, investment-grade single-family homes, there's always families moving up. There's always families moving down. Arizona, you people listening today, most of us were around during that time. Arizona in 2008 was the worst state.
Absolutely. And you know what, John? I've got to cut you off because we're coming up on a hard break. Well, John will be back in the next segment, and we're going to talk more. He's going to talk more about some specific things going on now compared to what happened before in the real estate market. And I'm going to get John to tell us what he thinks about REITs. I know I get asked a lot about that, so stay tuned to the next segment.
For more information on your personal bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And again, we have a very special guest with us today, John Burly. He's one of the top real estate educators in the country. Money Secrets of the Rich, #1 best-selling book. He was an early real estate mentor of Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. John has spoken literally around the world with many of the top speakers that we're all familiar with, or Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, all those folks. So it's really an honor to have you with us, John, today. Thank you for joining us.
My great pleasure. Love to share with you and fellow Arizonans.
Awesome. And of course, I asked John back on the show because I know of no one better in real estate. He's my mentor, real estate mentor. And I asked him back because of all this crazy stuff that's going on with the COVID crisis. And I'm getting so many questions from folks from the radio, my clients. What about real estate? And if you missed the first 2 segments, I'm going to tell you, go to yourpersonalbank.com and go back and listen to those 2 segments. You're going to want to do that because the information that John has shared is dynamite. John, we've been talking a lot about single family. We've been talking about the economy. You started the lead with something else about Arizona and what's going on right now. So go ahead.
Yeah. So look, with proper systems in place, and that's important, and most people don't have them. With proper systems in place, people go, well, how bad could it be? Well, in 2010, following the 2006 to 8 downturn and crash and crush, which there's no dynamics even with the coronavirus that would say that this is going to be worse than that or even close to it, because that was mainly caused by overbuilding and speculation.
Right.
In 2010, our income streams were 91% of what they were pre-cash, meaning almost all of our residents stayed and paid. Did we have to work with them? Of course. We used common sense business, and those that we needed to work with, we worked with. But most people just stayed and paid. The sky didn't fall. Everything didn't fall out. And that was when, we really just understood that, look, if the property's cash flow, it doesn't matter whether it's worth $100,000 or $250,000. If we're still making the money every month, it doesn't matter.
It's all about cash, right? It's income.
It's about the income streams.
Right.
And what we do that's very unique. So a lot of people ask me about, the flipping and the buy, flipping versus buying hold. They're both fantastic. They're both great. A couple more risks that come with the flipping is that if the market goes down 10, 20, 25%, unless you bought well, which today some still do, but most don't. Most go to a free preview, spend a little bit of money on education, and basically their whole premise is the properties must go up in value for them to make money in their flip. If you're doing that, you're not investing, you're speculating. Just go to Vegas. Well, I guess it's closed. You can't even go to Vegas. No. And so, we just teach people, look, if you're doing the flipping's great, but make sure your numbers are solid, which means you have to work harder, which means you've got to get the right deals and make sure you're going to make the money when you buy it, not on the back. We mainly do the longer term simply because single-family homes were designed for long-term, not short-term, and you make far more money. On our average, here in Arizona and the Phoenix area, our average $150,000 to $250,000 home that we buy, on average over 10 years, it makes over $200,000. That's why we don't flip very many of them, because we make so much more money if we hold it. And what we do differently is most people who flip, they flip because they didn't have enough cash to buy the properties. So what we do is we teach people to do it in order like a real business, have your great idea, real estate investing, raise the money first, then actually go and buy the real estate rather than try and buy the real estate without the money, which is kind of backwards, if I could say that word on the air.
That is kind of the opposite of what you hear all the time.
Yeah. And so we just look at money as what it is, a tool. It works great. And we use it for real estate. And we're seeing, in my opinion, the next 90 days, 6 months, year, 18 months, as we move forward, we're going to see a tremendous amount of opportunity in Arizona because there's going to be some softening and weakness in the market that are primarily caused by the emotions of fear. The vast majority of residents for the long term will still be able to pay. There's government assistance. They're going to go back into other things. Most of our residents are still paying today. It's their home. It's where they live. They're going to pay. Part of that is we're not in bad C neighborhoods. We're not in too nice 8 neighborhoods. We're in solid, I call them lunch pail Joe, and the term that was used a couple of years ago before it became politically incorrect is, decent, God-fearing, hardworking Americans, which everybody uttered for my entire life until 2 years ago. And, we just have regular families in regular homes. Good, solid properties. We're not in bad neighborhoods. We're not in too nice in neighborhoods. Just good, solid, regular neighborhoods. And,
and John,
understand.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was going to say, if somebody wanted to learn more about how they call it the Burly method, by the way, want to learn more about, where would they go to learn more?
Two sources. Go to johnburley.com, JOHNBURLEY.com. We have gifts for you there. There's downloads on creative real estate. There's downloads on the secret to raising private money. There's downloads on the 7 levels of investor, and there's a download on becoming debt free. And those are all free for you. You can also, if you want to jump in the conversation, start asking questions, go to the John Burly Real Estate Forum on Facebook. So just John Burly Real Estate, and there it is.
And you've been doing this 35 years plus?
Yeah, I started part-time. I did my first deal in 1981, so it's actually almost 40 years now.
Oh, my gosh.
And I formed the private equity company in 1989.
When's the most recent deal you've done personally?
This last week.
Involved with? Last week?
Yeah. So we do deals all the time.
So this is a guy that's doing it, folks, not just talking about it.
We've done thousands and thousands of real estate transactions in 12 different states and 2 other countries. We do private placements, with individuals and with investment companies. We're very well known. We're one of the largest buyers in the history of Arizona, and we love what we do. And we, on a part-time basis, we do the education. But my primary job is I'm the founder and CEO of a private equity company.
Right.
And where this market just flourishes for us is that the basis of my model, my entire job, is to reduce and mitigate risk. It's not to make as much money as I possibly can, because when you do that, you take unprecedented risks that virtually always backfire. It's to reduce and mitigate risk, which is how all great investment companies are run.
Exactly.
And that's what we do, and that's what we teach.
Oh, that's awesome. One other question I get I'm getting a lot these days is folks are asking, okay, again, they're worried about the market, the stock markets per se. What about REITs? What do you think of those?
I love real estate investment as a hedge, because you can cash flow the properties. If they're cash flowing, the value today doesn't matter unless you need to sell. REITs are a great theory. The problem with REITs is management.
Okay.
98% of REITs are fee-based, meaning they make almost all of their income off of the fees they charge you. If they make a great return, they don't get much more. If they lose your shirt, they don't get much more. They get paid no matter what. They get paid first. I don't like that model. It's extraordinarily adversarial. We work on the what 2% of private equity companies do, which is basically our investors get paid first. We share in profits, we share in losses, and it's amazing the 2% of firms that we do what we do consistently crush and destroy the other returns. And the reason is we have skin in it. If I don't make money for my clients, I don't make money for me.
And I think you like making money in real estate, don't you?
I love making money in real estate. We don't buy real estate to lose money. And so I'm not a big fan in the REIT model because the interests aren't aligned. I want what's good for me. I want to be good for the management company, and what's good for the management company, I want to be good for me, not the reverse.
Warren Buffett had that same philosophy with his hedge fund when he started it, and he did all right, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done fantastic. He's actually one of the people that I looked to and modeled years and years ago. Before Warren Buffett made his report public, he did his annual report once a year, and the only way you got is if you were a shareholder. And shares were almost $200,000, and I bought one just to get the dang report.
That's an expensive report, but I assume worth it, right?
Yeah, and his whole model is to reduce and mitigate risk. And then he says things. And this would be something to really take away. Mm-hmm. When others are fearful, be greedy. When others are greedy, be fearful. Well, right now we're moving to an area, for many people listening, to them this feels like unprecedented fear because they haven't been in this game for decades and decades and decades. For us that have been around, this is just a return of the cycles that come and go and come and go. So when everybody else's sky is falling and wants to get out, that's when you kind of rub your hands together, smile a little bit on the inside, and start looking for good, safe placements, good things to buy. And so we're going to have a lot of buying opportunities. We're already in the real estate in Arizona. They're softening. The list prices haven't gone down much, but list price isn't the value price. You can start offering less than before and getting the offers accepted, where 3-4 months ago, there wasn't much that you bought for below value off MLS. We did all that deep off market. Well, that's shifting right away.
And a lot of that shifting, absolutely, and that's why we have you here talking and helping people make good, intelligent financial decisions, particularly regarding their real estate. We've got one more segment here we're going to jump into after the break, and John's gracious enough to join us for that segment. Stay tuned because he's going to talk a little bit more about that risk, avoiding that risk, mitigating risk, we'll put it that way. Stay tuned. Next segment, Your Personal Bank Show.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, call Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com. Back to Your Personal Bank Show with President and Founder of Secure Estate Management, Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. We're rounding third, and like I've been saying lately, there's no professional baseball being played right now, so hopefully that'll happen soon, but we'll see. We have a great guest today, John Burly. He's been with us for the entire show, one of the top real estate educators in the country. He does this himself. Number one best-selling author, Money Secrets of the Rich. He's worked with folks like Robert Kiyosaki, or he was an early real estate mentor of his. John's my real estate mentor. And John, I just want to say thank you again for joining us today.
You're welcome. I've loved sharing with everybody. It's awesome to be connecting with so many fellow Arizonans and help them, profit from the experience that's going on a financial level.
And the bottom line is I asked you back on the show because, there's been a lot of upheaval in the economy recently with COVID. And a lot of questions folks I'm getting is, what about real estate? And you've shared some great stuff on that. If you missed the previous segments, go to yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to the previous segments, the shows that John was, the information he was sharing. We've covered a lot of ground today talking about what you should do with personal residences, investing. We've talked about single family versus commercial. Is there anything else you would like to add, John?
Yeah, I think, when you're doing the investments, understand that right now there's a lot of opportunity today and there's a lot more coming. There's a lot of value there. We mainly stuck in the solid middle class single family home and on our multi-unit apartments, those. Commercial, have always been very, very selective simply because I knew my risk on commercial was very different. So a single family home, middle class family. And we always likened to it. It was kind of like Walmart. I mean, basically what we bought a home that was kind of like toilet paper, meaning it was essential that you're going to use good times or bad times. When times are good, you're getting the two-ply. Today people will make any toilet paper they can get. And our houses are basically that type of commodity. Regular homes for regular people. There's always a demand for them. They overfill. Arizona is currently not overbuilt. If anything, we're slightly underbuilt, which is the exact opposite of 2006 to 8 when all the big things happened last time. Very, very different dynamics. I mean, a positive news, sucked if you're going to buy a loan. However, if you own a home and you own investment real estate or you want to, Chase just changed the lending requirements to 700 FICO scores and 20% down for owner-occupied. That's a good move, people. That means they've learned their lessons. They're not taking on more risk than they want to moving into this. And if you don't have the ability to borrow yourself, then for gosh sakes, go to johnburly.com, download the Secrets of Raising Private Money, because what we do, most of the deals that we've done, I mean, I do a lot of my own money, but we're a big company, did lots of deals. Most of the deals that we did were with investors' money, where an investor put up all the cash, signed for the loans, and we split the profits 50-50, and we did all the work.
Right.
And so, we've got just massive upside. There's some short-term things going on with COVID, but they're short-term. It's a myth that you can't evict. You can evict right now in Arizona. There's just a process. If there's specific things that they can not pay rent in the short term, but it's just the short term. It was a 120-day thing. 120 days means nothing in the real estate cycle. Nothing. Right. And so what we do is we just teach real good core fundamentals and foundations. We're really, really excited. Over the next couple of weeks, we're doing meetings, and they're online meetings, so don't anybody panic. With very, very large family offices that are very excited about the opportunities of doing large placements here in Arizona with us, because our fundamentals were extraordinarily sound in March, and they're extraordinarily sound today, and they're going to be extraordinarily sound in 6 months. The emotions that are in the market will bring the values down, in my opinion, 10, 20, 25%. They're not going to go much farther than that because, again, it's nothing like 2008. We are not overbuilt. We don't have hundreds of thousands of vacant properties sitting there with no one to live in them. None of that's there. And so there's just a lot of great opportunities. You need to get good, solid education and follow fundamentals and follow rules. It's not a wing it time. It's not, hey, let's go try and buy a $300,000 house for $260,000 and do $40,000 of work and sell it for $350 when it's done. Those days are over. Those are short windows. They're dangerous windows. It's like playing musical chairs, and usually if you play it long enough, you get caught pretty bad at the end. We don't do that sort of stuff. That's speculating.
John, I like you brought that up because I've been talking a lot about, the 3-bucket strategy, having the emergency bucket, the safe bucket, and the growth bucket. And a lot of people got their ratios out of whack when things were going up. Everything was great, right? It's when things go the other way, that's when, you can be sloppy and do well. But when things go the other way, well, that's where discipline really pays off, doesn't it?
Yeah. And look, guys and gals, we're listening to this. You're listening to this radio show. Mm-hmm. Because you want to do it right. You're more astute than most people out there. And so you already get that get rich quick doesn't work. Heck, we all wish it did. I'd be the first one to say, wow, I wish get rich quick worked. But it doesn't. Never has, never will.
Right.
And so we have to follow good financial rules.
Right.
We've got to have money in reserve to hold us through the bad times. We're really, really blessed. Right now, is my staff working full time? No, not most of them. Are they still on the payroll? They're still all getting paid? Absolutely.
Right.
Because our company and our family, we're in a position to do that.
You planned accordingly, which, you're leading right into what I talk about. This is the Your Personal Bank show. And I talk to a lot of people about, hey, if everything John, I talked to a guy 2 weeks ago, 64-year-old old, a year away from retirement, 100% growth funds. And, he lost 30% in a month. You got to have those cash reserves. You got to have that money that's growing steady. You have to have that cash flow income. I use the personal bank as one of the tools to help people do that. Have an account where it's safe, it's growing, and they can use that money for emergencies or opportunities, like real estate, for example.
Great tool. Great tool. And the wealthier you are, the better the tool it is.
Yeah, because there's some tax benefits involved, right?
Yeah, there's tax benefits. And if you worked really, really hard for a really, really long time, that's one of the things you really want to look at is to have the money available to pay the death taxes and the final things. I know, we have, you and I have talked about this before. We have multiple forms of insurance for ourselves.
Right.
When I was in the financial world, I had all those licenses and was a broker. I forgo them in the early 90s intentionally because I didn't want anybody to think there was a conflict in what I was saying, i.e. I was going to profit off of it. Advice given. You and I have talked about this. So many of the financial people are really nothing more than corporate chills for mutual fund companies.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that out there.
Yeah. But I love the idea of the personal bank. And I think it's a great model for a lot of people out there.
Well, like you and I have talked about before, I found it's a way for a lot of people to develop that discipline and consistency, to have some cash there available, growing. And then if they want to get into real estate investing or something else for that matter, they've built the discipline to be successful at it. Yeah,
and I think the thing that I would say, not the majority, a large majority of the listeners right now already got this. The number one, and it really is the number one and there's book after book written about it, report after report, study after study, and my own personal experience and hundreds of people that I know that are very, very wealthy. Almost all of them, to a person, set aside a percentage of their income every single month for decades and let it grow and grow and grow. And the couple $100 a month starting out, or $500, whatever number, that itself doesn't make you rich. But the moment you do that, suddenly your subconscious mind flips, your psychology, your emotion flips. You are now an investor. You're not just talking about investing. You're actually investing. And then, in our report, The Levels of Investor, we talk about the growth where people start out as a saver, and then they move to what we call a passive investor. And then mainly what we do is an active investor, where we do the real estate and we do all these things and the investing in the markets, but we do that ourselves or with an advisor, but based on our direction. So if you know what you're doing, you didn't take a 30% hit in the market because you already had sell orders in place in the good times for when the bad times came, which you knew were coming eventually. They always do.
Nothing new, is it?
No, well, it's about risk mitigation.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. John, thank you for joining us again today and sharing some phenomenal real estate news, economic news, what's going on right now. and we'll see what happens. We'll probably bring you back on, I'm sure, sometime soon, of course.
I look forward to it. And if you guys out there, please go to johnburly.com, get your free downloads. If you're active on social media, Facebook, do the John Burly Real Estate Investing group and hop on right away and start talking with us. And I go in there personally pretty much every day and answer questions.
I can't recommend John highly enough. Check it out, like he said. And thanks for tuning in to Your Personal Bank Show. We'll see you all next week.
Listen next week at noon for more information on Your Personal Bank. Contact Ference at 866-515-6280 or online at yourpersonalbank.com.
This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests on this program do not engage in rendering legal, accounting, or tax advice. Expert advice from a professional involving your specific situation should be sought, if required. Permanent life insurance is a long-term investment. Products, optional features, and riders may have limitations, restrictions, and additional charges and may not be available in all states. Withdrawals beyond principal may be taxable income. Excessive and unpaid loans may cause the policy to lapse. If a policy lapses, unpaid loans are treated as distributions for tax purposes. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be penalties and surrender charges when replacing coverage. New products may include new surrender charges and contestability period. Policy guarantees are based upon the claims-paying ability of issuing insurance company and do not apply to the investment performance or assets in the underlying variable portfolios. The life insurance and annuity products in this presentation are not FDIC insured, may lose value, and are not bank guaranteed.